Yo, what's up guys, just Boost here and welcome back to another Digimon video. It's called I swapped out the snapback for this beanie. But yeah, let's get into it. Today we're taking a look at what I think is one of the best decks in the format. I did a tier list video a little while ago where I talked about this deck. I'll link it up somewhere there, so you can check it out. Which is actually a Wargreymon X antibody, which I feel is definitely one of the best decks in the format. It's just not getting any love for some reason. I guess I can kind of see why, because the deck is very linear. It's a lot like something like Wargreymon or Metal Wargreymon X. However, I do feel it has a lot of good matchups into the format, and I really want to share my list with you guys because it's pretty much like a counter to Metal Wargreymon X, which is one of the best decks in the format, if not the best deck. It's very consistent, it's very powerful. Again, it's linear, so it's relatively easy to play, I want to say, which is definitely, it does appeal to some people. And yeah, let's just dive into the list. Alright, starting out with the Digitama, we're just playing 4 of the plus 1000 Koromon. When the Digimon has Agumon or Greymon in its name, which it should pretty much always have, unless you go into Omnimon, and at that point you won't be needing it anymore. There's no reason to be playing 5x, because you're definitely not going to be raising 5 times in this deck. And honestly, you're probably only going to swing once with your stack, maybe twice, but usually once. The draw's not gonna come up before you move out your stack and try to go for the big push, so no reason to play the draw Koromon. Yeah, this is just a standard for this deck, I think. Then moving on to the level 3s, which is also very standard. We're playing the promo plus 2000 Agumon when it has a Greymon in the name. You just want your stack to be as big as possible to, you know, survive any possible security checks, and if you have this in the stack along with the Metal Wargreymon X antibody effect, then you will pretty much survive any check. Then you have the BT5 Agumon, which searches for a Greymon and an Omnimon, and we're playing like a pretty high Omnimon count, so you are definitely sometimes going to be double hitting with this, which is very nice. And it's just a consistency card, right, to get all your pieces together to go for that big push. And then lastly, we are on, of course, the full place of the Agumon X antibody as well. Again, it's just another consistency card. Potentially, if you really need to, you can trigger Cool Boy over to dig for some more cards. It can also add an Omnimon. And this is just the entire level 3 lineup. We are also playing Red Memory Boost to yeah, make sure that the odds of you opening a pretty decent hand are pretty high. Yeah, not much to say about that. I was honestly thinking you could play the Black Agumon just to hard play to dig for like a Dragonkin and a Greymon as well. It's not bad, but it does hurt consistency a little bit because you can literally not evolve over it at all. But yeah, I'm quite content with this lineup. Not much to say about that. Then the level 4s are very straightforward as well. We are on the full playset of the structure deck. Security attack plus 1 Greymon. That extra security check does not only help you with aggression, but also helps you, you know, keeping turn or memory choke better when you're going into your Wargreymon X play, because you do gain 1 memory for every security that your opponent loses. And again, you just want to basically do 1 big push to finish out the game, like decks like Melga or Grandis also do, so this really helps with that. And then just 4 of the Wargreymon X antibody. It's like the built-in ADP. Well, not quite as good as that, but you know what it does. It gives your Greymon protection from being deleted or bounced, which is very nice. Occasionally, like if you have the X antibody option, you can just keep this erasing move without going to this, trigger the Cool Boy, gain some extra memory, and then go into your Metal Greymon and then just do the big push from the X antibody option. Yeah, this is just a staple in pretty much every Greymon deck, right? I am just playing 8 level 4s, which in a lot of stack decks is not quite the standards, but you really want to build up this super specific stack in this deck, so there's really no reason to play any other Greymon in my opinion. If I would decide to bump up the count to 9, I would probably play the BT5 Greymon that like you gain a memory on evolve, but just for the attack boost. But yeah, that is if I would move up to 9. And then for level 5s, this is pretty much the main player in this, or one of the main players in this deck. because you do not only gain the security attack +1, but also the additional 3000 DP almost always, because you will have access to the X antibody option a lot of the times, or to the regular Metal Greymon. And again, this just helps you survive the stack and also gain additional memory because of the extra security check. Yeah, if you have this and you know, the starter deck Greymon, then you will have to not do as much chip damage in the early game to actually go for the big push. Yeah, I don't think there's much to explain about this card. Just the 3000 DP boost is also so nice because it pretty much guarantees that you are going to survive the check. From battle anyway. Then I'm playing double Ultras mode. So this is mostly pretty good in the Bloomlord matchup. Like it says, if you have a Tamer play on evolve, you can delete a Digimon with 5000 DP or less. And it's just really nice to be able to delete their small Digimon that are suspended, so you don't lose the memory when you suspend your guy to attack, where your opponent has Hydramon face up on the field. And of course there's use for this as well against stuff like 5k blockers, against memory blockers as well. Even though we're not super consistently seeing this, of course. So we're also deck building to that, because we're also playing the EX1 Metal Greymon. The when attack effect is not really relevant, like sometimes you have to, right? But it's mostly just for the piercing, which makes it so that if you do not have this in the stack and your opponent has a blocker, that's actually a really big problem, because your Wargreymon X is going to delete at the end of the attack, so they can block your attack. And then at that point you don't do any damage, you don't get to gain the memory, and you don't really get that much value out of it. Or at least not as much value as you would want, so the piercing inheritance was very, very nice. It definitely comes up against certain matchups. Yeah, it's just nice to have a regular Metal Greymon like this is treated as one to evolve this over. Because you really want to basically set this up in racing if you can. Specifically this one, and then, you know, move out, evolve into this, trigger Cool Boy, gain memory, draw cards, and then go for the big push. Then level 6s, the all-star of the deck, of course, is the Wargreymon X antibody. It's just so good, like if your opponent goes for a Metal Garurumon turn, but they can't, you know, kill you on their turn, which pretty often they can't do, then you can just move out your guy, swing, and this guy will just delete their stack at the end of the battle. They will have to rebuild, and this guy is just super threatening when it's on field, because if they can't out it on their turn, which they most likely can't, then you can just swing, gain even more memory, and, you know, do more plays on your turn, which is very nice. And of course, usually you want to be swinging with this with 3 or 4 checks. And then if you already did some chip damage, it's going to be really easy to close out the game with you know, the Blitz Omnimon. And then we're also playing the old school Wargreymon. It is very nice that you do gain the security attack for this Digimon. So if you evolve into this and then afterwards evolve this over it for 1, you have an additional check. So you have 1 check from itself, 1 check from this, 1 check from the Metal Greymon, and then another check from the Structure Deck Greymon usually. And if you have the tie, you actually do 5 checks, but the setup is basically you will usually want to do like 1 chip damage with an Agumon in the early game, and then just close out the game with this guy, or potentially even this guy. It is very nice, the ADP ability as well. Again, against certain matchups like D-Brigade, Mastemon, Security Control, this guy is definitely an MVP and can definitely help you close out the game. It's one of the strengths of this deck, I think, where you just have a built-in card that makes you not lose to security bombs. Where the other like big stack OTK decks like Grandis and Metal Garurumon, they do not have something like that. So they will have to basically sacrifice consistency to get access to the actual Delicate Plan card. And then I already mentioned we're playing quite a bit of Omnimon. We are playing double Blitz Omni. Again, if you just have to set up, you swing with the Wargreymon X, you keep turn. Because of the memory gain, and you can just close out the game with this. However, I'm also playing the newest Omnimon X antibody, which basically makes the threshold for the kill turn a little bit less. Because, of course, when you attack and you evolve into this with the X antibody, you can look at the security, trash the less security, and then basically swing for game. If you do have both these cards. The control aspect of this is also not bad, where you can delete or shuffle back one of your opponent's Digimon. And then I am playing one of the old Omnimon X antibody. And this is really, even though the matchup against Metal Wargreymon is already pretty good. Grandis is still super scary, and having access to this, like basically if you evolve into this, the game is literally over. You have just won. There's literally nothing they can do. Which is just nice in case like you can't actually kill them the turn you move out your stack, but you can evolve into this. That basically seals the game as well. So yeah, quite happy with this ratio. Then moving on to the tamers, we are playing a double tie. I think it's important to have a memory tamer because for most replays you do need the 3 memory or sometimes even 4, depending if you have access to the X antibody option or not. I was actually on 4 memory boosts and just 1 tie, but I decided to go back to 2 because there's a lot of memory blockers in the format right now, and it's not super easy for this deck to out them. So double tie and then just a full playset of the Cool Boy. Yeah, nothing to say about this, right? Should speak for itself. It's a consistency card, it helps you push. Just insane. Moving on to options, double memory boost. I still think a card like this very nice for consistency. It's good when they hit an insecurity as well, but I couldn't really justify playing 4 just because at some point they do become really clogging in your hand, and also memory blocks are quite popular right now in the format. So yeah, and then also playing Crimson Blaze, just because Bloom Lord's pretty popular. There's some other decks where this card's pretty good against. This is basically like, these are flex spots, which I'm not super sure about yet. It kind of depends on the format, but I think this card is very powerful in some matchups which can be harder for you. Like example, Bloom Lord. And then the last card in the deck is just the triple X antibody option. I was playing 2 for the longest time, but there's just so many games where like, oh man, I definitely would have won if I had access to this. And even though it's very easily searchable in the deck, I still found myself missing it a lot of the times. With just playing 2, you know, shuffling it back to the bottom of the deck can be really painful, and this can make your pushes so much easier because you will require a lot of less memory or less setup to do the play, because you can just swing with your Metal Wargreymon and then use this effect to go into the Wargreymon X antibody and gain the memory back to keep turn. And you also, if you have this under your stack, you go into the Blitz Omni attack, trigger this, go into the Omni-1 X antibody, the new one, then that will also help you close out the game. So yeah, 3 of that. Alright guys, that was my deck list for Wargreymon X antibody. Again, very underrated deck in my opinion. I definitely can see it like winning some of the bigger tournaments that are coming up in the EX3 format anyway, because of how strong it is and consistent as well. Let me know what you thought about the deck list. Let me know what other decks you would like to see me profile. And, you know, hit that like, leave a comment. The YouTube algorithm loves that. And if you do, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!